clerk looked at me funny when I asked to check in. He tapped the keyboard, then frowned and said, "You already did." I hadn't. I'd been driving all day, Savannah to Montgomery, pit stopping in a nowhere town for sleep. This was a basic 2-story motor inn. Outdoor access, soda machines, humming street light, maybe 12 cars in the lot. The front of the building had that yellow-lit vacancy sign that never really turned off. There were moths dancing against the light box and gravel crunching under my boots. Inside, the lobby felt like it had been sealed off from time. A dusty countertop, a warped bulletin board with faded menus, a coffee machine that burped steam but smelled like plastic. The air was cold, overcorrected. The clerk behind the counter, college age, sunken-eyed, didn't seem surprised to see me, but he wasn't friendly either. Name's Aaron Colley, 38. HVAC tech, contractor work. I don't like booking ahead. Too many delays in my line of work. I'd pulled off at this place by chance around 10:45 p.m. Didn't recognize it. No memories here. But when the guy behind the counter asked for my name and I gave it, he pulled up a reservation. My reservation. "There must be some mistake," I said. I hadn't booked anything, hadn't even decided to stop here until 10 minutes earlier. But he turned his monitor toward me, and there it was. My name, spelled right, Georgia license. Same last 4 digits of my cell. "I checked you in around 8:15, he said. "You even signed the ledger." There was no record of another Aaron Colley anywhere in the system. No duplicate, no one with the same name. Just me. The key card had already been issued. Room 212. The kid looked uncomfortable when I asked if someone else could have checked in using fake info. "You had your ID," he said, slow. "You showed it to me. You were wearing that same shirt." He didn't sound accusatory, but something about the way he squinted at me, like he was trying to match my face to a memory he didn't trust, gave me chills. The clerk, Todd, his badge said, was calm, not accusing, but I could tell he didn't believe me. He asked if I had any substances tonight. I told him I'd had a Dr. Pepper and a bag of chili Fritos in the truck, that's it. He gave a flat laugh and slid a new card across the counter. "Just use the spare. We'll get it sorted in the morning." I took it, but everything felt slightly off. The way the fluorescent lights in the lobby buzzed unevenly, the faint ticking of the wall clock behind him. I stepped into the elevator, the kind with the mirrored interior that makes you look like you're floating in a box. As it climbed to the second floor, I had the bizarre urge to check the reflection for something out of place, like I wasn't sure I'd see my own face when the doors opened. As I climbed the exterior walkway, I saw the door to 212 already had the bolt lock twisted shut from inside. I knocked once, waited, then knocked again. No answer. I tried the key. It blinked red. I crouched and looked at the seam of light under the door. It flickered like a TV had just turned off. A second later, I heard a scrape. Slow, like a chair being dragged on cheap carpet. I backed up toward the railing. The window curtain moved slightly, just enough to catch. I couldn't see anything behind it. My skin prickled. Someone was definitely in there, and they didn't want me coming in. But I was the one with the reservation. I went back down and told Todd. He looked irritated now. "There's no other guest in that room," he repeated. "If someone's in there, it's you. That's your room." He tapped the computer again. The record hadn't changed. Same check-in time, same data. "You got in at 8:15, he said, signed in, then asked about late checkout. He printed out the check-in slip and handed it to me. I didn't remember ever writing what I saw. My name was there, sure, but the handwriting was wrong. Slanted and sloppy, almost performative. Then Todd showed me security footage. Grainy black and white, time-stamped 8:13 p.m. A man who looked like me approached the desk. Hat, jeans, same building. But I wasn't there at 8:13. I was 200 miles away. I asked to see the lobby sign-in book. There it was, a signature next to my name. It had the same unusual flourish my grandfather used to do on lowercase y's. 2 extra loops. I hadn't written like that since I was a teenager, and never on a form. That's when something slid sideways in my brain. This wasn't just a screw-up. It felt tailored. Todd seemed unsettled now, too. Honestly, man, maybe sleep it off. Maybe you did check in earlier and forgot. It happens. I'm not saying you're lying, but his voice trailed off. I nodded and took the spare key again, more out of habit than trust. Outside, the air felt colder than it had when I first arrived. I sat in my truck for 15 minutes, watching the top floor of the motel. The light outside 212 flickered but didn't go out. No one came in or out. I played a voice memo from earlier that day just to ground myself, something I'd recorded at a job site. It was there. Same voice, same timestamp. Whatever was happening, I still existed. I hadn't lost time. Finally, I convinced myself that maybe Todd was right. Maybe it was a booking glitch, a twin moment, something explainable. I grabbed my duffel from the passenger seat, walked back upstairs, and tried the card again. This time, the light blinked green. I pushed the door open slow. The room was dim, bathroom fan humming behind a closed door. One suitcase on the bed, a duffel bag, a set of keys I didn't recognize. But the jacket draped over the chair looked like mine. Same scuffed collar, same stain on the left sleeve. Then I saw the wallet on the table. Brown leather, creased. I flipped it open. My name. My face. But the photo was different. Sharper jaw, cleaner cut, and the license number didn't match mine. My stomach flipped. I stepped backward, toward the door. Something rustled behind the bathroom door. Footsteps. I turned. Todd had followed me up. He was standing just outside the doorway, eyebrows knit tight. "I thought I should check on you," he said, barely above a whisper. Then he saw the wallet on the table. He stared at the photo ID and then at me. "I watched you leave the lobby 10 minutes ago," he said. "How did you?" He trailed off, looking into the mirror across from the bed. Then he took a slow step backward. A soft metallic click came from behind the bathroom door. Todd whispered, "Let's go. Now." He turned and started back down the walkway fast. But I didn't follow. I was staring into the mirror above the dresser, one of those cheap mounted panels. My reflection stood still. Same face, same clothes. But on my reflection's head was a red hat. I wasn't wearing one. I reached up. Nothing. The reflection didn't move. It just kept staring back at me, like it had been watching the whole time. A single drop of sweat rolled down the side of its face. Mine stayed dry. The bathroom door opened. No sound. Just the slow creak of the hinges and the gust of warm air. A man stepped out. Same face, same build, same everything. He didn't speak, didn't smile. Just walked past me like I wasn't there. He sat down on the edge of the bed, picked up the wallet, then reached for the phone on the table. It lit up in his hand. The lock screen, different than mine, different apps, but it opened instantly with his thumb. He looked at me once, then never again. I didn't sleep. I drove west until sunrise, eyes twitching at every reflection in the rear view. At a gas station, I checked my phone. Something was off. The passcode failed, twice. Face unlock didn't work. I pulled out my backup ID. The photo was old somehow. The address was wrong. I opened Gmail on a stranger's phone. It said the account didn't exist. My name still existed. My face was still mine, but he had everything else. The first time I saw him, he was standing next to the ice machine. White metal body, big blue sticker that just said ice. He didn't look up, didn't move. Hours later, when I pulled my curtain shut, he was still there. Same spot, same man, like he hadn't moved at all, like he was waiting for me to notice. I'm Dana Culver, 41, safety inspector. Been on the road since I was 28. Hotels, conference centers, meatpacking plants, grain silos. I've seen it all. I don't scare easy, and I've learned not to look too closely at things that don't concern me. But this felt different. This felt like I was being noticed. The motel was a roadside dump. 2-story outdoor walkway, T-shaped layout, 8 rooms per floor. I was in room 204, second floor, directly above the office. The side wing had vending machines and an ice unit tucked into a concrete alcove beside the stairwell. One security light flickered nonstop. No lobby entrance, just a walk-up window and a buzzer that no one answered after 9 p.m. My company booked the room, not me. I was in town for a safety compliance audit at a nearby poultry plant. I'd stayed in worse places, but not many. Still, I didn't need luxury. I just needed 3 nights and no hassle, that's all. As I walked up the stairs to my room, I saw a man standing down by the ice machine. He wasn't doing anything, just standing there like he was waiting for someone. He was beside one of those old white machines with a big blue ice sticker on it, the kind that hum loud and leak on the pavement. I didn't look long, but later that night, when I pulled the curtain shut, he was still there. The other rooms near me were empty, far as I could tell. The windows were all dark after 10, and no one passed by on the walkway all evening. I liked that at first, peace and quiet. But when I stepped out to toss my soda can in the bin and looked down toward the ice alcove, there he was. Again, standing by the machine, not getting ice, not doing anything. Just watching, maybe. At first I assumed he was waiting for someone. Maybe a friend was coming down the stairs. Maybe he worked there. There was no rule against standing there. But something about his posture made me uneasy. He wasn't leaning or pacing, just standing, straight-backed, arms at his sides. He didn't look up when I stepped outside, but I felt seen. Back in the room, I closed the curtain halfway and watched for another minute. Still there. The man had on a navy windbreaker and dark pants, balding on top. No phone, no drink, no luggage. I checked the clock. 10:44 p.m. Maybe he was waiting for a rideshare. I turned off the light and went to bed, telling myself it was nothing. Still, I left the deadbolt and the bar lock on. Tight. The next morning, I opened the curtain and looked down. He was there again. Same position, same clothes, standing by the ice machine as if the night hadn't passed. My stomach dropped a little. I watched him for over a minute, and he didn't move once. I made a show of turning my lamp on and zipping up my bag, hoping the sound would draw his attention, but he didn't even glance up. When I left the room for work, he was gone. I assumed I'd just missed him leaving. The timing was weird, but not impossible. I told myself it wasn't worth thinking about. I had a job to do. That night, around 10:30, I returned from grabbing food, and there he was again. Same man, same spot, same posture. I parked, locked the car, and stood for a full 10 seconds by my door, just looking at him. This time he did turn his head slightly. Not all the way, not enough to make eye contact, but enough to let me know he saw me. I went inside and pulled the curtain shut completely. I didn't eat. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, trying to figure out what was actually happening. Was he following me? Was he even real? I tried calling the front desk, but no one answered. After 9 p.m., it was just the night drop. I could have left, but I didn't. Something about him wasn't threatening exactly. It was more like he was waiting for something. I texted my coworker, Ken, just to joke about the creepy motel. I said, "There's a guy who lives by the ice machine. I think he's part of the building." Ken sent back a skull emoji and said I needed a raise. I didn't mention that I'd seen the man at least 3 separate times now, always in the same position, never doing anything normal. I didn't mention I was starting to feel afraid. Later that night, I got curious. I pulled up Google Maps and looked at the satellite view of the motel. I zoomed in on the side wing and frowned. I couldn't see an ice machine alcove at all, just a solid wall. That didn't make sense. I saw the unit. It had a blue sticker on it that said ICE in faded capital letters. I'd heard it humming. But on the map, just a concrete wall next to the stairwell. I zoomed in again. Still nothing. The next morning, I got up early and dressed fast. I walked down past the office like I was headed to my car, then doubled back around the long side of the building to look at the ice machine face to face. I wanted to prove something to myself. But when I turned the corner, it was gone. No alcove, just concrete wall, freshly painted in spots, like it had been patched recently. I stood there for a good minute, trying to make sense of what I'd seen. Had the whole section been boarded up and painted over in the last 48 hours? I hadn't heard any work. I hadn't seen trucks. And yet, the man had been standing in that exact spot, right where I was now. I ran my hand over the wall, smooth, cold. I was breathing fast without realizing it. Back in my room, I sat on the floor and stared at the wall. I didn't feel safe anymore. I'd been brushing off my own instincts for 2 days, and I finally admitted to myself that I felt watched, tracked. Out of habit more than anything, I opened my phone and started flipping through the audit photos I'd taken earlier in the week, mostly time-stamped equipment shots for documentation. But then I noticed something strange. In one of the photos, a blurry shot I'd taken inside the plant break room, angled toward the safety signage, there was a dark shape reflected in the corner of the glass. A man, half obscured behind a vending machine. Balding, navy windbreaker. It wasn't clear, but it was the same stance, same stillness, same build. He hadn't just been at the motel. I went to the front desk during the day and found a woman behind the window. Early 60s. Name tag said D. I told her I wanted to report someone, a man who kept loitering by the ice machine. Her expression changed the moment I said it. She tilted her head and asked, "Which machine?" I pointed toward the far wing. She stared for a second, then said, "There's no machine over there anymore." I asked when they'd removed it. She said, 2 years ago, after the accident." Her voice dropped. "A man died there, locked himself out, slipped trying to reach the railing, hit his head. His wife found him the next morning." She looked me up and down. "Why are you asking about him?" I asked if there were any cameras. She said there were, one pointed down from the office toward that wing. I asked to see the footage. She hesitated, then agreed. We stepped into the back office where the monitor sat on a tiny metal desk. She pulled up the night prior. Black and white video, wide angle. You could see my room, the walkway, and the corner where the ice machine used to be. The feed showed me arriving, parking, stepping out of my car. But there was no man. Just me, standing on the walkway, staring at an empty wall for over a minute. Not moving, not blinking. I leaned closer. "Go back," I said. A few minutes earlier. She scrubbed the footage to 10:38 p.m. The camera showed the walkway, still empty. Then I walked out of my room and turned toward the camera. Except, 30 seconds later, I did it again. 2 versions of me. Same clothes, same posture. One stood by the railing, unmoving. The other moved normally, walked into frame and went back inside. I looked at Dee. She looked at me. Neither of us said anything. That was my last night at the motel. I didn't file the report, didn't finish the audit. I told my boss I got food poisoning and drove home without checking out. Since then, I've kept moving. New cities, new contracts, different brands. I don't even let housekeeping in anymore. But last week, in a comfort inn in Kentucky, I found something under the bed when I dropped my pen. A plastic room key. Old, cracked, half-faded. Different motel, different state. Same blue ice sticker.